Hello, and welcome to Today's World, is where we try to address issues that fascinate us here in the Bay Area. I'm your host, Laurie Sanders, and today my guest is lifestyle coach and founder of Think Fabulous, Camber Hill. Camber, welcome to Today's World.
Thank you.
Now, life coach.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that's been around probably for a very long time, but it is a new terminology. How would you classify, or tell us what a life coach is?
All right. Well, life coaches have been something that have been developing in rapid pace, especially in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Whereas most of the time what you'll hear out on the streets is a life coach. I actually position myself as a lifestyle coach, but to answer your question, the life coach is a person who actually works on a very one-on-one basis with their client and actually becomes the advantage for their client to be able to speak on certain very intimate subjects, whether it's on a professional matter or a home-based matter, and actually iron out problems to help them get ahead in a much more smooth and enjoyable fashion.
Okay. So what you're saying is it's kind of like you're my best friend, but you're sort of detached from the situation.
Right. I don't know any of the players. I don't know their personality necessarily. I'm not involved in any of the outcomes. And my ultimate intention is to listen to you and to gather as much information as possible. And then the art of this particular occupation comes in when you must ask questions that lead the client to realizations. It's in those sudden aha moments in our casual conversations with one another that we suddenly realize what we're thinking about a certain subject matter or issue or problem, and we begin to find our own resolution. And the coach's ultimate job is to bring you to that place without actually taking you there, but walking with you and getting there together.
Wow. Okay, so let's take a step back for a second. Mm-hmm. How does one become a lifestyle coach? Because, it's sort of not in the directory of college.
The curriculums.
In the curriculums, it's like lifestyle coach.
I think, Laurie, it's going to end up there because of the amount of respect and the tremendous amount of use that the men and women in the world today that are making things happen are actually pushing this up in front and making it rather common. I think there's a number of different ways, not unlike how does one become a mechanic? There's,
right.
You could start with in your dad's garage, or how does one become a doctor? It's usually because the individual kind of has certain personality characteristics and occupations that have led them, maybe perhaps human resources. They were head of human resources for large companies, or they were at the head of the news for certain television stations, and suddenly they wanted to move in a more personal, one-on-one entrepreneurial status. So there's many ways. In my particular case, I began at 21 years of age in one of the most unlikely roles as a professional psychic. And my customer base, which was in Newport Beach, California, were some substantial people, celebrities, people in the oil business, insurance business, who began to consult with me. Obviously it was a rather peculiar situation, such a rather young guy with, a very naive look into the world, but that intuitive capability and my sincere interest in the individuals who sought my counsel began to grow. So that's how I originally began sitting and paying attention to complete strangers and their needs and working with them to get a grip on exactly what the best direction was for them to achieve their goals. And then by 30, I had the opportunity of doing some radio and television in Los Angeles, which further promoted my work. But, Laurie, quite frankly, I felt a little bit like not settled in that particular field. I wanted it to be a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more useful. I don't think for myself, giving you any insight into something in the future is not necessarily as helpful as working with you to improve your current state of mind and the way that you're handling your life right now. So I further worked as an entrepreneur and developed my professional background. And by the time I was at my 40s, I was ready to begin to really develop the man that I've become, which is using my numerology and my lifestyle coaching with the clients that have been with me for some over 22 years and being able to work with people on sometimes a weekly basis.
Wow.
So it's been quite a road to get to this particular state of confidence and capability.
But it's also that entrepreneurial spirit you had at a young age that, I mean, you've had businesses and you've done other things along with this background of having this intuitive nature.
Right.
That you have taken your business savvy and created this lifestyle coach situation for yourself.
Right. It almost gives me, I'm finally at a time where I get chills about my own experiences, not just seeing them on television or on the big screen. Yes, my work, I had a small business called Shazam Entertainment in the early 80s, and then I went into the software industry, and finally I was a senior recruiter in the software industry. And all of those components allow me today to be able to understand the sales and the market behind the persons that are the people that are my clients. And over the years, I actually have niched myself into specializing in women. Women, I believe, are most likely to use any feasible, realistic advantage to achieve their ultimate goals. Men tend to be a little bit more skittish. They're not as willing. Like if you're going to go into a dance room, Laurie, the women are the ones that are going to drag the guys onto the dance floor. Guys don't want to look foolish. They don't want anybody to know that they could possibly be fools. They want to make sure their ties are tight and their shirt is not wrinkled. The girls can 1 minute be sitting there, breastfeeding, and the next minute going, we need to call this courtroom into session. I mean, you can be authoritative and you can be footloose and fancy free, and women really are one of the most dynamic currents that are making the world a great place today. And the entrepreneurial spirit in these women is new. It's a brand new place for women in 2010. And the women that I have the honor of working with inspire me, and the ability to play a role in these dynamic people's lives is one of the most fulfilling things I have ever experienced.
And with your involvement with being a lifestyle coach for women, doesn't that, from what I can tell about your background, you grew up in a family of women. So you had early on experiences with how to deal with your sisters.
Yeah, and I complained the whole time, the entire time. Between the bathroom was never quite in the same order I would like it, and none of the things on the counter were things I was going to use. But yeah, it's like nature set me up, and I say that in a positive way. It was an incredible setup for me to be very in tune to the feminine cycles. And when you grow up with four sisters, you really do get in tune with the feminine cycles. But that, and my father is a professional musician, and that's more of a feminine personality trait. My father wasn't a football coach; he was a saxophone player and an entrepreneur. With his work, and so my home base and the entire thing that set me up to do my life work was being, very tuned in to the complex dimensions of women, which are a bit more complex than men. And
the creative side of things.
And the creative side. The men as the hunters and the protectors, there's a specific role that we play and that we do. Where women, as the caretakers, the nurturers, the mothers, the wives, it's a much more diverse character. And in this day and age, when women are really at the forefront of in the occupational world, in education, and just all around, allows me to have a little bit of a advantage in understanding and in feeling confident to be able to listen at a degree that I can understand things beyond what is being mentioned. That's crucial to my work. Not only to be perfectly centered and present in conversation, but to be congruently aware of undercurrents of other conversation within that person so that we can get to the bare bones and get something accomplished so we can move on to the next interest.
Wow. You're listening to Today's World. I'm your host, Laurie Sanders.